What is up, guys? We are back with another video, and today we're taking a look at another Z490 motherboard. This time it is the Gigabyte Z490 AORUS Ultra, which basically sits in the middle of their Z490 line. So let's go ahead and take a look. To start things off, this is an ATX motherboard, and Gigabyte is keeping pretty much the same design we've seen on their AORUS motherboards. So we have a black PCB with black and silver accents. Overall, I think the board looks quite good. Starting at the CPU socket, we have Intel's brand new LGA 1200 socket, and this socket currently supports Comet Lake S processors and more than likely future Rocket Lake S processors as well. While it's not backwards compatible with older Intel CPUs, it is cooler compatible, so if you did have an older Intel CPU cooler, it's more than likely going to work on this socket. When it comes to power delivery, the board makes use of a 12-phase digital VRM solution that features 55 amp Dr. Moss power stages without doublers, so the power phases connect directly to the CPU. So with 12 55 amp power stages, the CPU VRM is able to handle 660 amps current in total. Covering the power delivery components, we have two heat sinks which are connected by a heat pipe. And you'll notice that these heat sinks are a lot smaller than some of the other ones we've seen on other Z490 motherboards. This is because they are designed as more or less a CPU heatsink. So we have a lot of fins, and Gigabyte calls this their fin array 2. And they say that it provides up to 300% more surface area, which will make these heatsinks much more efficient. At the top corner of the board, you'll find an 8-pin EPS connector, as well as an additional 4-pin. Both of these are metal reinforced, and then there's also a 4-pin fan header. Moving across the board to the other side, we have an optional CPU fan header, your normal fan header, a 4-pin RGB header, and a 3-pin addressable RGB header. When it comes to your memory slots, you have 4 DDR4 DIMM slots, which support memory all the way up to 5000 megahertz, and Gigabyte actually says that this board will support XMP profiles up to 5000 megahertz, which I think is really impressive. Along the edge of the board, you have a postcode display, 24-pin ATX power connection, which is metal reinforced, a 4-pin fan header, USB 3.2 Gen 1 header, and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 header. Moving down the board, you have 2 Thunderbolt headers and 6 SATA 6GB ports. All 6 ports are of course at a 90-degree angle and are powered by the Z490 chipset. Along the bottom of the board, you'll find the rest of your headers and connections. So from left to right, you have your front panel audio headers, a 3-pin addressable RGB header, 4-pin standard RGB header, TPM header, 2 USB 2.0 headers, the Q-Flash Plus button, 3 4-pin fan headers, and your front panel connections. The bottom half of the board is covered with heat sinks, and I think Gigabyte's implementation of this looks quite good with the half silver, half black design. The chipset heatsink has a large AORUS logo on it, which is going to of course light up with RGB lighting. Then you have 3 M.2 heatsinks which connect to it. There are 3 M.2 2210 slots on this board, and the one really interesting thing to see is that you have thermal tape not only on the top of the heatsinks but below the slots as well. As far as expansion slots go, you have 3 PCI Express 3.0 X16 slots. These are wired as X16, X8, and X4. All 3 of them are metal reinforced. And for those wondering about Gen 4 compatibility, the top 2 PCI Express slots as well as the top M.2 slot are Gen 4 compatible. Like most motherboards these days, the Z490 AORUS Ultra has an integrated I/O shield, When it comes to connections on the rear I/O, you have 4 USB 2.0 ports, antenna connections, HDMI, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, 4 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, 3 are Type A and 1 is Type C, and 2.5 gig Ethernet, as well as your audio connections. Both the Wi-Fi and 2.5 gig Ethernet are powered by Intel. For the Wi-Fi, you have Wi-Fi 6 or 802.11ax, and then 2.5 gig LAN is actually part of the chipset now. So for most of the Z490 boards, you should see 2.5 gig LAN as something that's standard. When it's all said and done, I think that Gigabyte has a really great board here in their Z490 AORUS Ultra. As I said, it sits pretty much in the middle of their Z490 motherboards, and it has all of the features that you're gonna want in, say, like the Z490 ecosystem. You have 2.5 gig LAN, you have Wi-Fi 6, and you have USB 3.2 Gen 2. Talking about the Wi-Fi 6, I actually just upgraded my home Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi 6, and it is incredibly fast. So it's really great to see that on this board. And for some reason, some other motherboards aren't including Wi-Fi. So it's just, again, it's just nice to see that here on this board. As far as design, I think Gigabyte is one of the best. Their boards look awesome. The design is really great. I really like how on this board, the bottom half of the board is pretty much all heat sinks. It just makes it flow really well together, and I just think it looks really good. It is great to have the Gen 4 compatibility on this board, so if you happen to want to, upgrade to Rocket Lake down the line when it comes out, again, the top 2 PCI Express slots as well as the top M.2 slot are Gen 4 compatible, which is nice to have, of course, for future proofing. You could do that somewhat a little bit on Intel products. So I do think, again, this is a really great board, and you do have that 12-phase VRM. And one thing I really like about this board is the VRM cooling. The FinArray 2 actually really works by, of course, giving you more surface area on your VRM heat sinks. It makes it so the heat sinks don't have to be big and massive, and I think it works really well there. Now, if you have any questions about this board, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. We will have links below where you can, of course, pick up this board, as well to our full written review on ThinkComputers.org. We also did a BIOS walkthrough on this board. If you guys want to check that out, I'll go ahead and link that below as well. But we're going to go ahead and end things here. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up. And if you enjoy our tech content, go ahead and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video.